Happy Halloween. All right. Bill here, NoVisible Scars. This is my second Halloween special on the channel. Something a little different for the holiday, or my channel, I should say. Um, I'm not. Last year, I featured records, movies, stuff like that that reminds me of Halloween or fit in with Halloween. Yeah, well, that was cool. I did like it. I was thinking, and I was going to do another episode like that. I was like, yeah, let's do something different. Um, just came to me. Let's do. I'm in Connecticut, New England. Let's do something on a legend, a haunting in these parts. New England has a lot of notorious haunted places. From hospitals to graveyards to schools, etc., etc. Of course, the Warrens, most famously, Monroe, Connecticut, which is about 20, 25 minutes from where I'm in. So let's go back, and I'm going to enlighten those about Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut. Has a notorious history. The Warrens have called it the most haunted graveyard in the States. Well, I'm not going to go over. Yeah, briefly, I'll mention a few things. I don't want to go over the whole history of the cemetery because basically, I'm focusing on my time. I went back in 1993. What I saw, if anything, what I experienced, if anything, and a bunch of photos I took that I haven't looked at in 30 years almost. With that said, let's well, actually, you know what, how did I start from the beginning, my experience more so, then I'll give a little brief history of the cemetery. um, in 93, there's a newspaper article in the Connecticut Post about an incident where a fireman supposedly hit a ghost. um, I was like, I read it, and I was like, huh, interesting. So let's go to the story real quick on the fireman. It was a gentleman called Glenn Pinnell, who was a firefighter. He was responding to a call. A transformer had blown up in Monroe, Connecticut. And he actually took his own truck and responded to the call. When he got there, he noticed, traffic had to be diverted away from the scene, and accompanying him was a policeman that was on the got the call and was actually at the accident too. So they both ended up diverting traffic. They jumped it, like I said, jumped in the truck, went down Sport Hill Road, um, which is alongside a cemetery called Stephanie Cemetery. Um, what happened next was there was a woman in the road. The Glenn said he plowed into her, nailed her, like hitting a brick wall, he said. She flies over the hood of the car. Both see her land. Now, in the meantime, behind them was a woman, female driver in her own vehicle. She was tailgating. She jumps out of the car and goes, you guys hit that woman. Holy crap. So they all begin investigating, looking for the body. There's no blood, there's no clothes, nothing. Body's completely gone. Woman's gone. Um, so while what I'm going to show and talk about is Union Cemetery, it's all connected. And that woman they saw was the notorious white lady that haunts the cemeteries in that area. Now, Stephanie's cemetery, where that happened in Union, I mean, basically a 7-minute drive down the street. So, reading that, I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. Never really heard of it. So then, in the article, there's mention of a book. Behind me, you can see. I'll pull it down in a sec. I knew of the Warrens already, and I think I'd been to one of their talks, and this is early on when they did them at, like, high school gyms and stuff like that. So probably early 90s. In the article, it mentioned the book had. Let me grab it now. Here we go. Here it is. So it's Graveyard: True Hauntings from an Old New England Cemetery. This is from '92. We'll get back to that in a minute. So in the article, I was just like, oh, you know what? I'd love to go visit this place. And, knowing there was a book, I ran right up to the mall, grabbed it, Barnes & Noble's had it, and bang, bought it. So I was amazed that this white lady was all around that area. So I had been in college. I enrolled in 1991 at a local community college for graphic design. So by spring of '93, I had an opportunity to take photography. Now, photography then was the old-fashioned camera, film, and you shot black and white. I wasn't even shooting in color. I had to learn how to use a darkroom, everything. So me and my buddy Chris, that I had the class with, was like, did you hear about, Easton and Monroe and all this, the white lady and the haunting of that cemetery and all this stuff? He's like, yeah, kind of. I was like, you want to go with me? Let's go shoot that for class. So that's how I ended up with these photos, going up there and taking. Now it was during the day, so at that point, when that article came out, that cemetery was hopping, man. The people were all from all over were going there, because the book had come out. So there was always a cop, I think pretty much 24 hours stationed at the graveyard. So we went during the day. Nobody, even back then, nobody's going to say anything. But before I get to the photos, let's a little background on Union Cemetery, because that's the main focus. That's where it's believed the white lady originates from. Basically, the cemetery is about 400 years old. Maybe, yeah, I guess about that. Yeah, from what I read. Now, before the white lady's hauntings or sightings, interesting, and this comes from the book itself. So the book here, let me open this up. The book is broken down into these chapters here. And the first, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. First 8 chapters on the cemetery itself, and the legacy history of it that Ed and Lorraine Warren spent. I don't know if I mentioned, this was written by the Warrens, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. They did a research. There's a paranormal psychic research community. I don't know if they still exist. They probably do, but at the time of this book, that's what they were. That's how the funding came about. That's how the whole thing came about. Documenting for this this community of researchers. So and now let's see, the second half of the book, I don't know if they're really true stories. I think from what I remember, I think they were legends, lore sent in, or written about, that the Warrens were sent and collected. Still pretty interesting, but they don't involve really Connecticut or that cemetery there, Easton, the Union Cemetery. Still fascinating. But one of the more interesting things, and so supposedly true, about Union Cemetery in the 1800s, there was a group of monks that tried to build, well, I think they did build a monastery, but numerous things kept on happening. It was satanic, supposedly, and haunting, stuff like that, which led the monks to actually leave the cemetery. Now, I never really looked for that, but I guess the land, obviously, if you know where you're looking, the land is still there. And in the book, now this was published in '92. I don't know how far back prior to writing this, Ed and Lorraine commented when they had gone on the land of the monastery, that there was black candles and satanic occult symbols all around. True? I don't know. Never even thought to really look for that at that point, but we're coming off the satanic panic too in the 80s. There might have been some leftover hysteria from that in there. Who knows? But fascinating nonetheless. Other than that, the White Lady herself. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go into I could do numerous shows on the lore of the White Lady, but she's believed to be either a murder victim. The cemetery is notorious for brutal murders that happen inside and outside the grounds of the cemetery, documented in the book. So that's pretty fascinating. Yeah, I mean, maybe just the lost soul, supposedly there is a name given, or two names given to the woman that they believe. One was killed by, a jilted husband, and I believe, or ex-lover, I can't remember. Don't hold me to that. And her body thrown in a sinkhole behind a church that's on the grounds. I don't know if it's Union or Stephanie, but regardless, that's believed to be the White Lady. Supposedly that body, even though it was a sinkhole, was found because it floated back up out of the sinkhole and resting on top of the water. So like I said, tons of really, there's so much. I mean, this might be, might do something like this every year. Some may have heard of Dudleytown. Been there. We'll talk about that. I have photos from there too. Same era, that early '90s. You can't even go up there anymore. But we'll say that. Maybe save that for next year. In the description of the video, I will link Connecticut Post. It's more recent. Every year around this time, that cemetery is brought up and stuff like that is discussed. I'll link that article you could read. There's a podcast too that's pretty cool. A lot of what I mentioned, but more. You can certainly do a Google search and Union will come up. But like with that said, let's get to my photos. These are, like I said, these are shot during the day, black and white, in the cemetery. There's one picture. There's one interesting photo in particular. When I've shown to people, they say, and yeah, I could see it too. There is something there. All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right, so let's dig out those photos. You know what? Let's show. I want to show something. Yeah, you know what? There's a couple photos from the book I want to show because um, I don't have it documented in the pictures I took. But here's the that's the actual entrance to the cemetery. I don't know if that sign is still there or was even there when I visited back in '93. Um, uh, here's that sinkhole I was talking about. And some orbs floating around there from the cemetery. Okay, let's get to what I shot. All right. So like I said, these in the folder I have here, or envelope, it says Union Cemetery photos, 1993. Yeah, okay. That's funny. And the Sounds of Death envelope. Anybody remember that magazine? I got back in, must have got, let's see, yeah, April 5th, 93. Must have gotten that. Must have got the first issue, maybe? Anyway, all right. There's the actual negatives. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see, can you see it? Let's see. Oh yeah, there you go. You can actually see it through there. All right, here we go. All right. Now I don't remember whereabouts in the cemeteries these were, how far back or anything like that. But here's the first one. You know, nothing, nothing too unique. Pretty creepy, you know. Again, these are all ones I shot, developed in the dark room, and anybody learning the craft back then knows what a fucking wow pain in the ass it was. Another one. Probably it looks like maybe around the same area. All right, this is a close-up of one of the actual headstones, tombstones. So 1887 looks like. No particular reason why I just saw it. I think because of the flower petal there. It was raised. I don't know if that's a hand there. I can't remember. It was raised. It's pretty unique. This is more from the when you get into the cemetery there. It's pretty popular. I don't know. I don't know if they still burying people there. Not too sure. I have to look it up. But I know they were looking for volunteers for to help clean up. You know, I guess they do a yearly cleanup. They were looking for volunteers to help out with some chores that, you know, groundskeeping and stuff like that in the cemetery. I mean, it is a historical cemetery, so you know, whether or not it's still used, I'm not too sure. But it's great to know that they still take care of it. This one's really cool. I like this one. Zoom in a little bit. Black and white is always so much cooler when it comes to stuff like this. 1858, born 1884. Again, no reason why I took it. Just stood out to me. I think Chris, my buddy Chris, did some, stenciling paper with the charcoal. All right, so here's the last one. Like the perspective of this one. Probably why I shot it. But I'm going to zoom in. So look right here. Now, a lot of people tell me, right here, on top of the monument there, they see an old woman, I see the two eyes, mouth, and she has like a bun. Her hair in a bun. I don't know. I could see it. I do see it, but is it the mind telling the eyes what to see? I don't know. Even far away kind of stands out. So that was always pretty cool. I was going to bring this particular photo to the Warrens. One time I went to see them, and I think I chickened out. I was just like, it's not. I wish I did. I'm gonna take a picture of that, blow it up, and then put it on the screen. And you tell me. You tell me. I don't know. Is that a ghost? I don't know. Hey, I'm fascinated by the supernatural. I love the old cemeteries and all that, but kind of torn. Is there an afterlife? Maybe. I don't. Is there ghosts? Sure. Why not? Do I actively go out and seek it, or fully believe it? I don't know. I'm not a skeptic, but I'm not obsessed with it either. Maybe when I was younger, with supernatural, definitely was more intriguing. But nowadays it's rather focused on the living. All right. Thanks for watching, and happy Halloween. Hope you liked the special. Anybody really? I'd love to hear from people that, especially locals, or that's been to the Union Cemetery, Stephanie Cemetery. Get the chat going, man. Let me know what you saw. Have you been to Dudleytown? Did you see anything? Union, did you see anything? I wish I could always have gone at night, but wasn't taking that chance. They were seriously. I mean, I know friends and friends of friends that got in trouble for. But that that was the '90s. I don't know. I don't know now. Has the hype died down? I don't hear anything about the white lady since the '90s. I don't know, but I don't know if she's out there. Maybe she's due back. Maybe she's due back. All right. Have a good one.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seekers of the Supernatural. I'm your moderator, Tony Sparrow. Tonight we have two special guests with us, along with your hosts, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Tonight we have Dr. Joe Klimick and Jennifer Benever, who are psychic investigators who will be talking about two haunted cases that are active right now as we speak. What I'd like to do is start out with Ed, if I may, and ask Ed about the house that is in Trumbull, Connecticut.
Trumbull, Connecticut, yeah. This is a very interesting case in that there's three young ladies that live there and the mother. And it seems that a murder was committed many years ago. I'd probably 35, 40 years ago. And what they see is the apparition or ghost of a young girl. And the mother has been seen that she's one time been in the bedroom and she turned around, she felt there was a presence there. And here's this girl. She's looking at her. She's around 15 years old, and she's smiling, and she's very happy. And then she just disappeared.